I don't know about you, but I find AI very overwhelming. Everyone wants to talk about it. They want to tell you how to use it. And after about 10 minutes, I'm overwhelmed and checked out, and I'm no better for it. Well, today we're going to talk about no-code automations and how they integrate with AI to improve simple processes within your business. Welcome to the KeyHire Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Corey Harlock, creator of KeyHire Solutions, where we help small business grow with our talent. Before we jump into the episode, I do want to ask you, if you're getting value out of these shows and you're a regular listener, if you could please like, follow, subscribe to the channel, whether you're here on YouTube or you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, whatever platform it is. Help us spread the word by being a subscriber or sharing it with a business owner you think this might resonate with them, or a friend in business. If you could forward this on, we would really, really appreciate that. Also, be sure to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Corey Harlock on there. Just type in my name. This face will pop up and hit, I don't even know what it is. It's not a friend request, but a connection. Give me a connection request and I will accept that. That way you can keep up to date on everything we're posting on our social media. So our guest today is Paul Malott. He's the founder of Automations24, and they build smart systems that help business scale without burnout. They sit at the intersection of AI strategy, real workflow design, and real world messiness. Perfect for small business owners. He is the host of Control, Alt, Delete, and Repeat, and he's a recovering perfectionist. He's a dad, and he's a builder. Matt, let's welcome Paul to the show. How you doing, bud?
Hey, Corey. Oh, I'm living the dream. Thanks for having me on. I love the show.
Hey, thank you. Where are you sitting? Where are you hanging out today?
Currently in the great state of South Carolina, where it's a sweltering 85 degrees, and even in AC, you sweat a little bit.
Dude, that's child's play for us down here. That's nothing. That's like sweater weather.
Yeah, you see, I come from Michigan, so like it's progressively. I'm trying to ease myself into further south, better weather. Truth is, my wife wasn't a fan of the 6-month-long winters, up there, right? So coming down here is a little bit different. You don't slip on ice when you're going to the car to warm it up. I can appreciate that.
Getting your groceries to the car in the winter is a lot easier, isn't it?
Oh, hallelujah, hallelujah. But I still am the guy, like I always think of the meme where the guy's got the bag between his butt cheeks and he's trying to carry everything, That's me trying to carry too much stuff anyway. So I don't know, when it's super hot and you're carrying the groceries, you're guaranteed to have a soaked shirt afterwards. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you just get used to sweat stains, right?
It's just part of,
everyone's got them. You don't judge. Back up north, if someone's a little sweaty, you're like, oh man, they're a little sweaty down here.
Yeah, exactly.
You're always just sweaty.
Exactly.
Back in Calgary, talking about the 6 weeks of summer, there used to be this great beer commercial, and it was like it shows all these people and they're like looking out their windows, and they show an eaves trough, and it's covered in snow, and like a water drop falls, drop, and they're all like, yeah, and they all run, and they're sitting outside on the patio drinking. It's like patio weather. It's above zero.
Yeah, exactly. In shorts and no shirt, right?
Yeah. Anyway, people don't care. Like, they don't want to listen to us, reminisce about cold weather here.
Yeah, true.
We're talking about AI, no-code automations with AI, which right off the bat sounds super confusing. I know it's not, because you and I have talked about this. So within the context of the show, we always like to start with definitions about. We did a show way back on no-code programming, which was really cool. I forget who it was. But they had some really cool stuff. And we've done show on AI, different things, but this is cool because we're going to pull them together, and then we're going to put it in the context of creating a really simple process. And I think what we talked about was, the matching of accounts receivable, that process that it can be very time consuming, how you can automate that really simply to save time and money and increase accuracy. So hopefully we can distill this down to make it simple enough that a business owner can go, oh shit, I could do that.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
I know someone who could do that.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, what is no code automations? It's exactly that, no code and an automation. No
Yep.
code meaning you don't have to write lines of HTML code, Java, C++. You use different platforms like a make.com or a Pipedream or
Okay, so there are
Zapier.
platforms where you do this, and my impression is it's almost like drag and drop. I want this to happen, so I drag this piece over, and it happens.
Exactly. So to take it a step back, basically these no code tools are so powerful because of their capability to integrate with other applications. Okay, so when
Okay,
I define artificial intelligence, I'm defining it simply as pattern recognition and prediction at a larger scale. It's digital
okay,
mimicry of human cognition. It's simulation of intelligence,
okay.
and you
So
can.
that was a mouthful. Talk to me. Talk. What's the expression? Talk to me like I'm five. What do you? What?
Sure. So if artificial intelligence is simply pattern recognition at
Okay,
scale, okay? And when you combine that pattern recognition with no code workflows, so every modern website is designed with API keys, which allow them to exchange information between the sites. This
okay,
becomes powerful when you talk about no code because you're right. It's just like drag and drop, where you can select variables from one particular site and using these API keys, exchange information. It gets really powerful in that exchange when you start infusing this workflow, these modules, that exchange of information between the applications, when you start bringing in artificial intelligence that's particularly good at a task. So, using GPT as an example, in a simple email response, you can monitor your email inbox with a no code solution. And using that no code solution, send the email information through a pipe. Imagine a pipe that connects the applications. You send that information through to GPT, and you can have GPT establish what the context of the email was, establish a response, and then you can basically pick the variables of that response and forward it on and take the action, right? So it's a
okay,
trigger and action kind of
okay.
approach to a workflow. One of those actions could be a very specialized AI, or as we see today, there's so many different solutions, and it's part of why it can get overwhelming because
Right.
there are 10 different solutions for one very niche problem, right? Now, where no code comes in is you can evaluate those 10 solutions and plug and play as you see fit, right? Within your particular problem you're trying to solve. Now, in the context that we were discussing earlier, or what you mentioned, a very simple example is invoicing, purchase order, goods receipt. All these things have to happen and they have to line up for compliance and for you to get paid, right? And a
Right.
very
And
simple workflow.
for you to continue to work. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Getting
for,
paid
for, you,
is
for you to have
important in
something to
business.
do. So a very simple workflow is monitor. And I'll tell you, a lot of companies, they use the shared inbox. They use a shared inbox for their invoices. So it's very simple application of this is to take the shared inbox, monitor it for a trigger that's going to trigger the no code platform to send the information through, right? And in this case, we'll say we're monitoring for an invoice, and we've already issued a purchase order. We've already got the goods that we asked for. Now we're being invoiced for them. Okay,
Okay.
the invoice comes into the email. We use that as a trigger to then kick off the no code solution. To then we take that invoice information, send it to the next module. In this case, we'll say it's OCR, which is a very complicated, not even complicated. What it means is optical reading of a document, using AI to optically read a document and
Yeah.
extract the information. And then you push that information along to then match with your PO, match with your goods receipt, and flag for okay to pay. And this alone reduces, I mean, my wife was accounts payable, right? And I explained to her what we've done for several companies now. And she's like, you almost eliminated my job because she's or accounts receivables job as well, right? She's basically doing this match manually between different spreadsheets, between different PDFs, right? And so using a no-code solution like this, watching your emails, establishing the trigger, and then using artificial intelligence, one of the niche solutions, the thousands of niche solutions, using it to digest the information, you can then automatically do it, right? Or flag for automatically with very high accuracy, right? Complete the entire three-way match process and flag for any edge cases.
Okay. So when they were handing out brains, I thought they said trains, and I said, "Give me a big slow one." So let me repeat back to you what I think I heard you thought you said in my
Sure.
understanding of this. So you go to a no-code platform and you create a trigger
Boom.
that, and the API is a connection between, and I know that's really basic, but I want to emphasize, it's a connection. It's like the phone line between the two of them, right?
Yep.
So you create this trigger, then you connect it to your inbox. So that invoice comes in and it triggers that no code. So it's going to pull it through. Then that no code is going to send it to an AI that is trained to read your invoices. And now, is there access back to your database or where this invoice is originally housed as well?
Well, in this case, we're receiving the invoice from a supplier through the email. So they owned the invoice, for lack of a better term. But the first time that we see it is in the email, right? And we don't even have to open the email, open the invoice. Now we have AI or the no code that's pushing that to happen based on the trigger of the receipt.
So how do we know that we've received the goods and it's ready to pay?
That's all done in the three-way match, right? So the magic, quote unquote, and I don't like saying that because AI is not a magic wand, right? It's not necessarily the right solution for every problem too, right? I mean, a lot of people, I like to use this as an opportunity to talk about Dunning-Kruger, right? What it means to believe you're really good at something but not be good at it.
Right. Yeah, Dunning-Kruger is awesome. Yeah, it's why it's when stupid people think they're smart, right? Is that what we're talking about? So they feel like they don't need to learn anything because they already know it when they don't really know anything.
Exactly. So AI can be the equivalent of it's good enough now to where you can believe that you're really good at something, right? And you start abusing or misusing the tool simply because you're not chickadee checking yourself before you're wrecking yourself, But I go on a tangent here. But you have to know a little bit about what you're doing. But it's a good way to explain this, because when you get the invoice received, you're basically sending it to a specialized AI, which is you hire companies like mine to know what solutions are available, and this AI is going to read that document and extract the vital information out of it.
Yep.
Then it's going to start comparing that to your systematic documents.
So it does have access to your ERP or whatever to say.
Exactly. So it's essentially instead of paying SAP $10,000 a year to implement their cookie cutter ERP system, now you can say, "Oh, I have Google Sheets. I'm a Gmail or I'm an Outlook team or 365 group. This is what we use. This is where it comes from. I've established my trigger. I can build an ERP system myself with no code and API." So you're exactly right. The information gets pushed from the email to AI. AI reads the document, basically parses the information, selects the vital pieces, and through the pipeline that is the API key, you're pushing that then to a comparison table, for lack of a better term, where you have your PO number, your X amount of widgets, whatever other data that you need to
received, or okay.
Exactly.
So
exactly. Or if there's something off, -2 units, and you can then build the workflow to, okay, they undershipped by 10 units. We'll pay them only $90 out of the 100, right? I mean, these are things you can then build on once you get the brunt of the process accomplished.
Okay, so I think we've outlined the process. So how, I'm a business owner, right? And I'm thinking, this sounds cool. Do I build this myself? Do I need to get someone to build it for me?
Oh, this is where I shoot myself in the foot, because my company does this for a living, right? But I think if you, the beauty of no code And the beauty of where we're at today is that these tools are accessible enough, and in their design, in particular in AI, machine learning, there is benefit to you learning it, right? And I highly encourage you participate and converse and prompt AI so that you start to understand what it's like and what the learning process is, because you don't necessarily have to spend money on it, right? For simple workflows like the email or just a simple email response, there's maybe 2 or 3 steps in it. And when you're thinking logically and you establish the trigger and where you want to push that information, you can get it done very quickly, to be honest. And at a price that's $60 a month instead of 10,000 bucks, right? So I think it's accessible, and we're at a point where the serendipity of it all is that it's accessible. These tools are getting so niche and good at like their particular tasks that we actually risk where the special people like me, the specialized people, may lose a lot of opportunity to folks that are just getting in to try it because it's that easy to do.
It is and it's not, because it boils down to the people listening to this, the small business owners of the world. Their two biggest constraints are time and money.
I was just going to say time and money. Yep.
And if they have the money, they don't have the time, then it makes sense. And if they have the time, building a workflow like this may or may not be the right thing for them to be spending their time on, because maybe they need to be building business. But so I like to try things on my own. And 9 times out of 10, my wife always jokes that I like to do everything twice because I screw it up the first time. But I learned I'm not like, I can't read something and then go, oh, I get it. I got to do it. And then I go back and go, okay, now I see where I messed it up and I can get it right the second time. So I'm transitioning into the mistakes. And one of the obvious mistakes for me would be, as simple as this sounds, and there are some real techie people out there, like business owners that understand tech. Mm-hmm. I would consider myself very average when it comes to tech. It's not something I would want to try on my own, because I feel like the time I spend screwing it up and then finally getting it to a workable point, but not optimal, would cost me more than if I got you to do it for me or someone like you to do it for me. So let's kind of roll through, if we were going to do a simple process like this, and let's call it that trigger, a PO or a AR comes in and we want to trigger it and we want to match it and we want to make sure we're good to pay. What would be some of the obvious pitfalls, mistakes, watch out fors a business owner is thinking, oh yeah, I like to dabble. I could probably have a go at this, or I'm going to hire Paul to do this for me. What are some of the mistakes you might make?
Sure. So anything that you're trying to connect with has API documentation, right? So to me, an easy answer to this is the API keys are literally a mysterious key, right? Where there's a document that's housed on that particular application's website that tells you their way of sharing information from their application, right? It doesn't tell you their value prop, but it tells you, here's how you can extract and or push information to me. And that can get very cumbersome because it's very much a technical man's world. When you go in and it's code, that can be troublesome. But you can easily copy that documentation into a chat GPT, and in layman terms, right, natural language, English language, understand what it is in a second and be able to solve that problem, right? So you use the tool to also help you push you through it. And then let's not forget about YouTube University too.
100%.
The simple enough workflows, there are plenty of really, Nick Swarev, there's plenty of really good teachers out there and available on YouTube University that can walk you through step by step these simple workflows. And the thing that you're going to get caught up on after that, you follow the instructions, you've read the documentation, you've used the tool to support you understanding what you're actually sharing. And now you're like, okay, push go. There's always going to be an edge case, right? Somebody's going to send an invoice that's got their name on a piece of napkin, and it's not going to be read by AI. So how do you plan for that, right? And you said it really interesting. Time and money. Business owners, absolutely. The two biggest things, time and money. The only way you can get time is if you start structuring your processes in your company such that it
100%.
works for itself, right? And you have to treat
for this topic because this could be a time saver and
yeah, exactly.
and
So
save salary as well, right? If you could repurpose the person who's spending 20 hours a week doing this, and they can get them down to 5 hours, and now you got 15 hours to put them on something else. That's great too.
yeah, exactly. I mean, so every business owner goes into business for a few different reasons, but usually what I find in my conversations is they like what they do, which usually corresponds with how they're delivering value, right? Whatever the handshake is. If it's a plumber and it's cleaning the pipes, but they like doing that. And so the way that I like to think about it is, what can you automate that you hate doing today? Where are you spending your time today that isn't driving your return? Because that's what we should be. That's a prime candidate for automation, whether the data is dirty or perfectly clean, because that's a waste, right?
Yeah.
And I know the pet peeve of every entrepreneur is waste.
I'm sorry?
Waste. Yeah, wasting time, wasting money, wasting effort, right? You alleviate that point from them, right? You alleviate waste, and then they start realizing I can sell 5 more. I can spend that time doing alternatives, right?
Yeah.
And so it's well worth it to spend the upfront time to even familiarize yourself with these tools, because from a business perspective, these tools are prime for positioning you and your business to take advantage of that, basically seizing and sensing opportunities. Okay. Why do I say that? Because you're doing more return on investment. You're doing more on what is actually being sold. You're spending less time doing the things that are not driving value. So there's a reason to start building your company, thinking about it. What can you automate? Where's my value? What processes am I doing just to satisfy compliance or something else? And those are prime candidates, again, for quick, easy automation.
I do it. I don't know if you do it. I know a lot of my business owners get stuck in the minutia.
Oh yeah.
And in just these tasks that we've done since we've started the business, and we still think they're part of our job because we've always done them, and it's kind of that we haven't evolved. We have people around us to do them, but it's like, oh no, this is what I do. Kind of maybe it's a part of our identity or something. I don't know what it is, and this is a great way to automate it. And versus having a very labor intensive process, you can automate it and you just get the results. And then versus doing all the inputting and spitting out the numbers and then looking at the numbers, you can just get the numbers.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also risk. There's risk with not doing anything, right? I mean, no action is also action, right? And the way that I look at it now, and in my studies, which I study AI and its impact on small business and basically the infrastructure of businesses. Small businesses are at risk if they're not playing around with it. I'm not saying go implement 100%, but the risk is that process is going to be outdated faster than we've seen processes get outdated. What we're seeing is a metaphorical bat to the way we think we should be doing things. And what we're given is logic to do that, right? A tool that has some logic that we can insert our own logic into, right? For lack of a better term, to perform that process on our behalf. That's why, when you talk about artificial intelligence, there's generative AI. That's literally what people think of. I always think of social media. I use AI to write my post. That's generative AI. Agentic AI is taking your logic and rationale in your context and giving it agency to perform a task on your behalf. And so
Right.
the agency in the AP, in the payables example, the agency is basically what an AP accounts payable clerk would be doing. They'd be doing the three-way match, checking the box, and making sure that they're compliant to SOC2. In this case, it's automatic. And people forget when they talk about compliance and automations, there's a lot of concern of like, well, my hands aren't on the data. I can't touch it and see it. I'm really worried about it, you know? And people forget that manual interface actually introduces risk. So when you're talking about compliance and you're talking about a human performing a task that's, you know, something like compare this spreadsheet to this spreadsheet, right? The likelihood of me screwing up versus AI screwing up is higher. So
Sure.
my argument is in the process, when you're able to automate, you're actually strengthening your accuracy. I mean, it's proven, but you're strengthening the accuracy of your results. You're not only eliminating waste, right? You're also eliminating risk.
Well, and I think the cool thing to that too is that if it makes a mistake, you can adjust the prompt to train it better versus sitting an employee down saying, look, I'm going to have to write you up because if we can't have this, you know what I mean? With AI, you're like, okay, I'll just add a line into this prompt to say, make sure you do it this way. And then it goes, oh, okay, hey, thanks for the feedback, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and no business is, you know, turning the switch on tomorrow and everything's automated in AI, right? There's a lot of logic, and the approach to have the human in the loop is exactly what you're talking about. So the response wasn't correct. Well, you can train these models to recognize that they're not even correct and make the adjustments themselves, right? But having the ability for you to shortcut to the result is really the big time saver.
Yeah, it's kind of, well, I want to go back to something you said earlier about how it's evolving so fast that if you don't change, that's a decision, but you will fall behind faster than ever now by not changing too.
Yeah, the adage, I grew up thinking I could work my ass off and be successful. And there's some true to that, like hustle hard, hustle, work really hard, you know, and there's some truth to like, you know, you're going to open up doors, but that's not really how the new modern business is going to operate. It's who's doing things more efficient and effectively, and are they doing something that can be easily replicated or not? So the argument that, well, AI is going to eliminate human jobs, yes, in some cases it will, but where you're going to differentiate yourself is really the human, what you're bringing to the table, right? And you're reduce your efficiencies, reduce your risk, and do more of you. That's where you're adding the value.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's an interesting conversation. So let's get back to the advice part of all this, because I always like people to, if they've stuck around with this long, to walk away with something.
Sure.
So what are, if someone wanted to dip their toe and say like, hey, this 3 invoice match thing sounds like something that could save me some time. It sounds like I think it's a great way to intro yourself into this world. It's a simple process. You already have someone who's there who can check up on it and make sure it's good. So what are the top 3 to 5 pieces of advice you would give a business owner who's thinking, I would like to try to automate a process within my business using, you know, no code and AI. What's the advice you would give them?
Go for it. you don't do, if you don't do it, it's not going to get done, right? And if you're interested, the best thing you can do is start to play around with what's accessible to you, right? There are many tools out there, large language models. There's a Chat GPT everybody knows about. That's the belle of the ball. There's Perplexity. There's, you know, specific research ones, SciSpace. There's Claude. You know, find one that you are interacting with. They're free to play around with. Understand how you need to be interacting with this first and foremost, right? Because then you can start to understand where it could be beneficial, and you see the results firsthand of what you're giving it and the output, right? So you start to not only train it on how you interact with it, but it's also training you how to use the tool, right? And so you start slow. You just start talking something simple like, I got a medical bill, I don't know, or I got a bill, I don't know what's going on with it. Throw the bill, the PDF into GPT and ask it, help me analyze this and find out why I feel like I'm being overcharged. And that's a good start, because then you start to see the possibility, right? That you can use this. And then you go, okay, well, that was really simple. How do I replace myself prompting this? Well, I find a trigger. So where does my data come from? What when does it come into my system? And that's my trigger to start the workflow, to send it into, that spot, right? But pick a low-hanging fruit where you're wasting your time too. Pick something you hate doing, something that, like, responding to emails. You got two Excel files, those things that you have to compare. Those are easy things that you don't have to be super specific with AI to get good results with, right? So start with these things that are even dirty data, right? People don't recognize how much time is wasted cleaning up a big Excel sheet, right? And just changing the names on a column. We can use artificial intelligence to clean that information up for us in 3 seconds. So when you have information that you need reformatted, talk to it like it's a 2-year-old that knows how to reformat Excel files really good, and you're probably going to get the reformatted Excel file exactly how you wanted it.
Right. Very cool. And the other thing is, ask it, hey, I want to automate my accounts receivable. Can you recommend the here is my ERP, or here's how we record the data, our receivables. Can you recommend the best no-code solution and the best AI to integrate to do and create a workflow for me to do automatic matching?
Well, yeah, I mean,
here are my top 3 no-code solutions. Here's why I recommend them, because they best integrate with your software, or you're using Google Sheets. This works best with Google Sheets. It'll give you all that information.
You actually you make me smile, because I wish I would have said that first, because it's as simple as saying, I have XYZ problem. I have these 6 systems. Write me the file that I can import into a make.com or a no-code solution, and it'll build the workflow for you. Or, I mean, what am I even thinking? Make.com, N8N, these systems, they have AI agents that you can chat with about your workflow, and they will build the modules and lay it out for you. Less the connection, right? Less the connections. They'll lay out what it needs to look like. And then basically you can use GPT to walk you through how to connect it.
So I have a comment and then a final question for you. So my comment is, and tell me if you agree or disagree. What stops people from doing this is the fear of the unknown and the overwhelm of, I'm going to type this in and it's going to spit a bunch of stuff, and I'm not going to know what to do. I'm going to go on one of these platforms and it's not going to be intuitive. I'm not going to know what to do. I'm going to feel stupid. I'm going to get frustrated. I'm speaking, this is first person here. And so it's intimidating. And oftentimes we'll say, I want to, but I know it's going to end up, I'm going to waste time on this. An hour later, I'll be no further ahead than I was. So I think that's what stops people from kind of dipping their toe.
Sure.
You agree?
I agree. And I think part of it is that, we're not patient enough. And speaking from my own example, I bounced between different LLMs for a while because I didn't care much for any of them. Right. And none of them were giving me what I wanted when I wanted it. And it was kind of one of those things where I had to be patient and learn what I was doing wrong too. Right. Half of the problem that I find is when people are introduced to these models, they think they can chat with it exactly how they would chat with you and I today. And, it goes back to what I said earlier. You kind of have to treat it like a 2-year-old savant in Excel, you know.
Yeah.
Like
In the
that's kind of
beginning,
how you have to chat with it. So be wary of your own, your own inputs, because that drives a lot of the outputs. I mean, but really it's also double down on the human edge, right? When you're doing these automations, or you're getting pissed about because you've ran into something that's way too technical, double down on what you do best, and take a step back and go, okay, is this even worth automating? Because there are people out there, and not people, there are plenty of companies asking for automations and AI, and they really just need a little different logic. So
I
that's another thing, right?
remember a business coach who's a friend of mine. I said, "Yeah, I think I want to create some custom software." And he goes, that's the worst investment a small business can make, right? Is custom software." And I was like, "Well, blah, blah, blah. Now, years down the road, I'm like, man, he was right. It's crazy." I think the one thing people probably want to understand is, if going back to the AR example, if I wanted to call you and create this process and implement it, what would a timeline look like to do that? Because a lot of times we hear, oh yeah, it's going to take 6 months. It's going to, how long would it take to create this process till you're in the implementation testing phase?
Yeah, 3 weeks maximum. And that's the phenomenal aspect of this, is that because there's no hard coding, because you don't need software developer reading the data tables, and you can plug and play like you've alluded to earlier, the implementation time becomes that much quicker. And because you can
Exactly.
use AI, chatting with AI to build the blueprint for you, right? You've got so much that used to be previously 10, 20, 30 man hours of writing and testing. That's compressed big time. So delivering production ready ERP systems is literally 3 weeks away.
Amazing. So
It is
if
amazing.
I was going to engage someone like you, and I said, I want you to do this, from the time we engaged to the time it was being used in my office, and we were not perfectly, but we're using it and we're testing it, you're telling me 3 weeks.
3 weeks. One, so that I can deep dive, shadow with your subject matter expert, someone from my team, right? So we know what we find is that there's always 10 other processes happening, which is an
Right.
unfortunate thing, right? What the company has on their process documentation is, process 1 and 2, and then there's like 3 shadow processes that people are doing in the background. So it's always good to sit with the SME and understand what the whole picture looks like. So we spend a week doing that. We spend a week mapping out, creating mind maps. What does the actual step 1, 2, 3 for this entire orchestration of data look like, right? And then
Right.
the second week is, well, here's what it looks like on this blueprint. Here's what it looks like in your no code system in make.com and Zapier. And then we're going to turn it on. Here's what it looks like turned on. And then what you're seeing is the result, right? You're seeing the Excel sheet rather than the you don't have to push the button to turn it on. So it's actually way quicker, and it's going to get quicker. And there's people talk today way smarter than me about the idea of fungible code, right? The idea that you could create something just for a immediate solution and it kind of dissolves afterwards. Blow my mind. But potential is there because it's moving so fast, and the development cycle digitally has been compressed, right? So much that might be the next step.
So I think that's important, because in the past, when someone like you was selling a solution like we're talking about, this would be, oh, it's going to be a 6-month project, and now you're saying in less than a month we're going, and obviously 3 weeks is cheaper than 6 months worth of labor as well. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a much more cost-effective solution as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's cost effective, not just because the compression of the timing and the development cycle, but because with no code, you can integrate with the most cost effective micro solutions for that particular task, right? So you don't need to build a $30,000 niche problem solver. There's already $10 subscription problem solvers out there that you build into the workflow, right? So now you have
Yeah.
solutions for 50, $60 a month that you're paying $3,000 to develop, but it's done in a month, and you've just saved yourself. A business owners, one of my favorite things to ask is, well, how much time do you spend on task A, and you value yourself at $100, $150? Okay, you spend 5 hours and $100 an hour. There's $500 back, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, look, at math is not my strong suit, but I'm figuring you just said 3,000 to develop, and $500 a year is a lot cheaper than a $60,000-$70,000 AR person.
Yeah, that too. Or and people think, well, it's sad because you have to repurpose and I never want people to lose their job. I've been on the crap.
But what I'm saying is, they have time to do other stuff versus matching, which is it's not $30 an hour work, right?
Exactly.
It's not AR. They keep money in the bank. I get that, but the matching isn't the value of what they do.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. So that's the exact argument. Why do more of what you're not adding value? Why do we do that? So it's literal waste elimination. And most companies, what they do
an analysis for you, or learning a different part of the business, or helping with inventory or inventory control, or finding wasted inventory or inventory controls. There's just a million different things that you could be pushing them to. Now they're becoming a revenue. They're not a cost center, but they're you could repurpose them into more of a revenue generating task or revenue loss, right?
Exactly. They're operationalized differently. And what we find is just the ancillary benefits that come with operationalizing your resources differently and more effectively are just the organizations are surprised that they didn't know they could do these things, right? You hear a lot of that, like, oh, now that this is freed up, I didn't know that we could do this. And then it starts this whole interest,
Yeah, and these people have these secret skill sets. Like, they might be doing AR and spending all their time doing invoice matching, when behind it they have a degree in math and they're Excel wizard, and they could be doing all kinds of cool stuff for you, or they dabble in Power BI and could be creating dashboard. Like, there's just so much that goes on because we have them doing these tasks that take their time. We don't ever get past that. So what else could you do with this time? Like, if I give you some time back, what else could you do? And they'll give you, if you ask them, they see things and they could go, I've been looking at this for 2 years and thinking, I don't know why we haven't addressed it. I would love to tackle it. Perfect.
Yeah, that's called growing your business too, right? I mean, now that you're eliminating waste, you're allowing your business to grow. And I believe most entrepreneurs, most small business owners don't work to bury themselves, right? They're working to grow the business, maybe have a good exit, maybe pass it on. They have a goal that's not work more, I think. There's some crazy folks out there
trapped into that kind of cycle of chaos, but that's a whole other show and topic. Paul, this has been great.
My pleasure.
People are listening and they're like, hey, I want to learn more about this, or I want to try this, and I think Paul's the guy I should get to implement this process in my business. How can we reach you?
Very easy. www.automations24.com, or on LinkedIn, Paul-Malott. That's Malott. And feel free to send me there it is. Feel free to send me a message there. I love chatting with people as a part of my studies. I think it's imperative that I know what kind of innovation is coming from the innovators, the businesses. So I love understanding how people are doing and tackling their problems, and love to be a part of their resolution.
It was very cool. I was laughing because I thought Matt was asleep at the wheel. I was like, oh, wait, normally he flashes these things up right on time. He must have been, maybe caught him going to the bathroom or something. I don't know. I'll check in after we're done. Hey, man, thanks. This has been great. It was such a great conversation. Valuable information. And I hope people will understand that AI doesn't have to run your business. We can take it and just do something small. Just try it. The investment is really not prohibitive. Like, I don't know what your number you threw out there, but if it's $3,000 to $5,000 to try something, that's not prohibitive. And if it saves you 3-4x out of here, like, it's just worth it. So thanks so much. I've enjoyed the conversation.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you very much for having me on.
Thanks, man. There you go. Paul Malott from Automations24. Awesome guy. Great conversation. Super smart. I'd like to thank you for tuning into the KeyHire Small Business Podcast. And again, I'm going to hope you'll help me out one more time. Subscribe, follow us, like us, do whatever you got to do on whatever platform you're on. If you're watching us on YouTube or you're listening on podcast platform, please subscribe or share this episode with a friend that might have talked to you about AI, or they're not sure about it, or they want to try it. If you think it can help them, we'd love it if you would forward it on to them. Thanks for listening. I'm Corey Harlock, and until next time, stop grinding, start growing.